an absolutely pleasure to be here. I was talking to some colleagues. We were all here as a team 4 years ago in Nice, and we just had a track there. Now we have a forum on our own, right? It's all about the EX. I think clearly COVID had some good for us in terms of the function. As Magali said, my name is Magali Demierre. I'm French, married to a Swiss. We have 3 children under 12. We are based in London. And today I want to talk to you about what we do in Philip Morris to support our people manager, given the critical role that they play when it comes to driving experiences. I was also laughing because the team has been in place since 2018, end of 2017, 2018. And I was laughing when Martin was saying, the only place for EX, in my view, is reporting to HR transformation. We've had 4 different leaders, right, in our time in the past 5 years. It seems like at Philip Morris, people don't know where EX really fit. But it doesn't really matter as long as we create an impact. That will be my takeaway. We first were under P&C operation, and people thought the only thing we do is to support, making processes better. Then we moved to P&C strategy, and there all that matter was data analytics, but not really what happens after you have the data. So we then moved to, ITM, integrated talent management, and who knows, maybe in a couple of years we'll create our own COE. But again, as I said, it doesn't matter where we are as long as we create the right impact. Before I get started, I also wanted to share with you the context of what we are operating with. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with Philip Morris International, or PMI as we say it, but we are actually in the middle of one of the biggest transformation in history, and I will ask my colleague in the back to play the video.
Imagine a business turning its back on what made it so well known in the first place. Imagine reinventing yourself to become something so different to what you once were. Imagine making a decision that results in the disruption of the very industry you operate in. At Philip Morris International, we've done exactly that. Our goal? Deliver a smoke-free future and transform for good. Replace cigarettes for good. Why? Because it's the right thing to do. It's a well-known fact, smoking is harmful, yet there's still 1.1 billion smokers out there. And according to the WHO, that number will be the same in 2025. Quitting tobacco and nicotine altogether is always the best decision, but many don't. So for adults who don't quit, access to less harmful smoke-free alternatives can be part of the solution. Since 2008, we've invested more than $9 billion in the research and development of smoke-free products. We've hired hundreds of talented, innovative scientists, engineers, and change-makers to see our goal through. We are the only company within the traditional international tobacco sector to have committed to phasing out cigarettes. We don't need to imagine a smoke-free future. We're delivering one.
If we can go back to the slide, thank you very much. So as you can see, we have roughly 80,000 employees across 180 markets. We have 115 million consumers, and we still own 5 of the top 15 cigarette brands, including Marlboro. But we are committed to have the majority of our revenues coming from reduced risk product in 5 years' time. And we also have 2 smoke-free product research facilities located in Switzerland and in Singapore. So because of our change of business model from a B2B to a B2C, we had to adapt, right? We hire a lot of new people, and we had to adapt also our ways of working. And this is why becoming employee-centric, but also consumer-centric, was definitely at the core of our transformation. And we talked about it briefly yesterday. I know, Ellen, you provided a couple of statistics. I wanted to bring a couple of more statistics to the table as to why it is so critical for a business to be consumer-centric. And look at this data. This is comparing companies that are getting 5-star rating from their customer versus those that get 1 or 2 star ratings. And as you can see, they have 260% more sales, 370% more recommendation for their brand or their product, and 330% more trust. So those are really huge percentage that I'm sure won't let anyone consider that this is not important. At the same time, Josh Bersin has conducted one of the most thorough research around the benefit of employee experience. And he noticed that those companies that are really putting employee experience at the center of what they do benefit from business, people, and innovation outcome. And you can see them on the slides. I won't take you through that. But again, for us, this is why it was so critical. So it started with creating a culture of listening and acting, right? We talked about the importance of listening, understanding your employees, and acting upon that. But, we talked about this. How do you actually do it? And this is what we've done. So at Philip Morris, when I joined, we didn't even have a listening system, right? And that was back in 2018. We started, obviously, running RFP. We brought in Qualtrics. We started listening. But again, it's not the number of surveys that you run that is going to make a difference. We actually started with 2 surveys, and then we had 3 and 4 during COVID time, and now we're back to 2. What we said is it has to be a comprehensive listening environment. It doesn't matter if you do daily, weekly, monthly survey. What matters is you have this system in place to listen, but to then communicate on the result and then to act on the results. So this for us was really critical. Then obviously we needed to upskill our function because again, we had a lot of traditional HR professional, but because PNC is people and culture, is the first point of contact of a people manager. We needed to make sure that they were also equipped in understanding how to go from insights to action, whatever that insight is coming from. Then obviously the important and critical role of the people manager, and we'll spend the majority of this presentation talking about our line manager, but we needed to make sure that we made them realize the critical role that they played as enabler of experiences. And then this all needed to be connected to our PMI leadership model, because we told our people manager listening activity needs to be seen as a feedback mechanism, right? It's a way for you to be able to understand what your people are talking about, your leadership behavior, and then for you to respond. And obviously this had to be linked to a PMI leadership model to wrap up the well. So why did we focus on people manager? And again, we've done a lot of things. We've mapped out our employee journey. We mapped out our people manager journey. We worked on strategic project. But again, what we saw is at the end of the day, and I think somebody mentioned this before, you could have the most beautiful system, a great onboarding experience, super great app that tells you, here's your CEO and here's the welcome message. If you have a line manager or a people manager that doesn't give you clarity of objective, that doesn't spend time understanding your priorities, your personal, needs, who doesn't care about your career and doesn't help you develop, you're probably going to leave, right? Regardless of the beautiful systems, etc. So we really wanted to upskill our line manager for them to understand that they have to be owning the experience touch point that they can so much influence upon. And we wanted them to really feel that they were, they were a critical enabler to experience an engagement. Now, we made mistakes along the way. I think one of them is when we first did this whole listening strategy, we started putting ENPS in the KPIs of our senior leaders, right? So our senior leaders at SMT, SMT -1 have and still have ENPS as one of their KPIs. Not necessarily driving the expected behavior. I think what we're seeing is our ENPS is super high, but some of the dimension of the ENPS, not so much. So we need to rethink also what are the right KPIs. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that I think somebody said it yesterday as well. I think it was you, Anna. I don't know where you are, but you're over there. I think the importance of redefining the role of the people leaders. When we did our line manager journey map, one of the first gap we've identified is we don't have a clarity as to what is expected of a people manager. And as we know, this role has changed tremendously in the past few years. So this is something we're working on. We're working on a model. It's something super simple, something around, connect. You need to connect your people to the strategy. You need to connect your people to the vision, to the business results, etc. You need to develop, you need to motivate, and you need to care along the way. Something very simple, but we want to make it very clear to a people manager. So when they join the organization, they know what is expected of them, or when they are being promoted to people manager, they also know that. So what have we done? We've created our line manager journey. And as you can see, this line manager journey has 10 different episodes. And it's not a product that is set in stone. We will add episodes as needed. We actually created a couple of additional episodes along the way, like I manage a hybrid team, or I care about my team well-being, because that wasn't necessarily one we had expected to start with, but we had to add them to the journey. And the reason we created this journey, again, understanding our people manager needs, is that, guys, HR are asking us to do so many things, but you send us information in silo. So it's time for talent management. I get an email, you need to fill in the system, your talent. Or check in, get an email, it's time for you to check in. Or you know what, you need to onboard that person. So I get trained on these things, not necessarily at the time I need them. And then when I need to find the information, it's lost in the number of emails and webinar I've attended, and I don't know where to find it. And you have beautiful hubs for career, for onboarding, etc., but I don't remember the links. This is the reality we live in as people manager. So how do you help me actually access the information that I need when I need it? So we created a very simple SharePoint that connects the episodes to all of the links and systems that they need to be aware of. So when a people manager needs to, for instance, onboard a new team member, rather than looking through all of their emails or connecting with their HRBP and say, how do I do this? Because that's the other pain point we get from our HRBP is, those people managers, they don't know anything. They keep coming up with questions. How do we help them? So let me share a little more about what we've done. One entry point with dedicated content. Doesn't tell you just what you need to do, but how you need to do it. It's available for all people manager at PMI, and every single one of these modules have been designed, validated, and tested with people manager because they are for people manager. So lots of research has gone into this. As you can see, it provided guidance and practical tools on and supporting people manager to become employee-centric leader. We keep saying we need empathetic leader, we need people manager that are employee-centric, but do we tell them how to do it? That's the other question. And they are so busy delivering on our business strategy that they don't want to sit in a classroom for 2 days. They want to have bite-sized information that they can find super easily and that is easy for them to then implement. So it really helps them prompt concrete action through team co-creation, because remember, we also said not everything needs to fall on the shoulder of the people manager. They need to be able to, to also ask their team members to get involved. So how do they do this? So I want to share with you some of the episodes that we built. So remember what I told to you at the beginning, which is the importance of setting up a listening strategy, understanding your team, and using the survey or other means as a feedback mechanism for the leaders understanding what they need to focus on. I also mentioned, we use Qualtrics for surveys. What we've also done, and I don't know how many of you are doing this, it'll be interesting to see a show of hands, but we've provided access to their team data to all of our managers. And this is not something we did straight away. We still had some senior leaders at the beginning that were like, I need to see the data before my team sees the data. We said, no, 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 everybody needs to see the data at the same time. So we've done this, and any people manager that has at least 5 responses can see their team data, which is great, but then what do they do once they see the data? Not everybody is an empathetic leader, not everybody will know what to do. So we told them, okay, first of all, if you have less than 5 responses, you can still discuss the data with your team. You just discuss it at the higher level. You ask them also, if they can come up with some of the solution on the topics that are being shown as the critical topics. So we've really told them step to step, what do you do if you have less than 5 responses or if you have more than 5 responses? And I'll share with you the outcome of this work in a future slide when I show you the data. But I want to tell you that we put one KPI in our survey, which is my line manager is taking action on survey data, because we wanted to, again, encourage people manager to do something about the data. Okay, we also talked a lot here about the importance of recognizing. Clearly, this is not something we were very good at PMI. When we started listening, we had about 36% of our people that didn't feel they were being recognized for the work that they do. And again, it depends of what is the definition of recognition, right? A lot of our senior leaders thought that recognition is you gave an ABCD award. So you give like a $200 voucher and you're recognizing someone. But recognition means very different things to different people. So we needed to educate our people, or leaders, or people managers, that before you even start recognizing your people, you need to have one-to-one conversation with people in your team to understand what makes them feel recognized. Because maybe for Anya, it will be sending her to a conference, which I know she loves. And maybe for someone else, it will be, you know what, I'd rather have a day off, and spend it with my kids. And for someone else, it will be, I'd rather take the money. So everybody will have a different preference when it comes to feeling recognized. And if, for instance, I were to recognize one of my team members in front of a large audience, I know she would hate it, right? So it's about really understanding what makes your people feeling recognized, but also how do you do this? So we created a library of tools to help people manager actually come up with recognition. So they don't have to know exactly what to do, they can just follow the steps. So as you can see in that module, we explain the benefits, we gave them best practices, we tell them what it is, what it's not. We talked about birthdays, okay? It's great to celebrate people's birthday, but how do you do it in a hybrid team? So we make it easy for people manager. We tell them, you know what, just have a background with the person photo, celebrate them, and then you run a quiz and you ask questions so we all know the person. We really give them super practical tools for them to create these important moments that matter for employees and that make them feel very recognized. Next one is one that actually Anya built. Again, remember how we talked about hybrid, and we suddenly had to work in a hybrid way, and some of us were used to this, but probably not to the same extent as what we're doing today. So what we wanted to make sure is we equipped people manager to have these conversations with their team members, so they could ask the right question in terms of understanding your individual needs, but then ask collective questions and use tools like the understanding the needs. I don't know how many of you know these simple tools, which is, what are my hopes, what are my fears, what are my trash, and what are my treasure? This is a great tool that we adapt to pretty much everything we do in design thinking. And we gave that tool to people manager for them to also come up with what are the individual needs, but what are the team needs? And what are the organizational needs? And then find the sweet spot to come to a team contract. We call it a team contract. And this has really helped people manager themselves be more comfortable with the whole conversation and then implementation of the hybrid policy. And then I support my team well-being. Again, as we all know, there's been so much pressure on people manager to do things that they didn't do in the past since the pandemic, but also since the pace of change has increased tremendously. And clearly at PMI, we put a lot of focus on well-being. It's actually one of our strategic priority. but we don't expect people manager to turn themselves into psychiatrist or psychologist. What we want for them is to be able to identify any signs early enough so it doesn't become a problem, but also for other team members to identify signs of burnout. So this module, for instance, even though it's on the line manager playbook, is open to everybody and everybody has access to it. And again, it helps create a safe space for conversation, observe and ask the right questions, and then guide employee to the right resources. Okay, so I hope I'm doing okay on time, but I'm almost to the end of this. I wanted to, because of what we said, data is so important, and we measure everything so we can see if we're on track or if we need to pivot. These are the data on our People Manager playbook. We've had in 2022 alone, without even marketing the playbook. We haven't marketed. As I said, we've tested every modules, and we just finalized all 10 modules just at the end of last year, so we haven't yet marketed. Just by doing these things, we've had over 30,000 or 29,000 views and over 16,500 unique views. But look at our data. Our ENPS score has been up 23 points for the past 2 years, and we're now 42 points above the international benchmark. We're actually at the top of the benchmark. How would you rate your psychological or emotional well-being? Plus 11 points, again, 16 points above the international benchmark. I feel rightly recognized for my performance, plus 11 points. And again, 11 points above the international benchmark. My line manager is taking action based on our previous survey results, plus 4 points, and 27 points above the international benchmark. And finally, action is being taken by my market on our previous survey results, plus 7 points, 17 above the international benchmark. So I hope this data speaks for itself. Not everything's great. We still have some work to do around my line manager is giving me feedback, which is probably going to be our next priority. And this is why I was so interested to hear what others are doing. But at least on those areas where we really focused and highlighted the tools and helped, because we've not just sent a link, as we all know, just sending a link is not the answer. We've highlighted every single modules, and then we run specific session with the different market and function that we're interested to deep dive into the content, to really show what's in it for them, for the line manager, and help them understand the tools and how they can use them. So as we all say, recognition is really important. So I just wanted to make sure that we also spend a moment recognizing that this was a result of a beautiful collaboration amongst all of these team members, and wanted to say a big thank you to all of them. I know, Anya, you're in the room, but others are there. And just make sure that we all know that it takes a village to drive employee experience, but organization don't change industry. It's people that change industry, and this is what we're aiming to do. So I hope we have time for questions. I try to go super fast, but give you something concrete for you to take away.